Election rigging in Kenya is something that we need to talk about because it results to the will of so many people being overturned. It results to an illegitimate government ruling and making decisions on behalf of the people who did not elect them. So it is high time that we talked about this and realize that it is one of the places where the problem starts. It is rampant in Kenya, but it is not only in Kenya. Most African countries suffer from this vice. This has really resulted to governments that don't respect their people, governments that don't feel that they are mandated to deliver to their people, governments that feel like they are authoritarian and powerful because they know even if they don't deliver, even if they don't do development, even if they don't manage the public funds correctly, they have a way of finding themselves back in those positions. That is why it is important that we realize as Kenyans, as Africans, that that is a place where we need to focus on in terms of legislation, in terms of policy, to ensure elections are not only about who has the keys to the electoral boards, but is about who the people think are worth leading them from their manifesto. Because that is the only way that a government will be accountable, because it will be a legitimate government. And on the part of the citizens, it is important to realize that it is only possible to rig an election where the citizens don't have a clear stand, where the citizens have not decided clearly on what they want. If you look at the Kenyan elections in 2007, when President Mwai Kibaki wanted to go and run for the second term, they tried to rig that elections. They really tried hard to rig that election. The chairman of the IEBC, Samuel Kivuitu, really tried hard to work with the government to ensure that they rigged in favor of President Mwai Kibaki. But because the citizens had decided almost unanimously that they wanted change, they wanted to try something new, and it was evident from the campaigns, from how they showed up in different crowds and in numbers and in how they spoke and the things that they said. Everything was pointing towards a Kenya that was ready for change. And if that's the case, then it becomes difficult for any government to rig that election. But if it is not clear enough, if the decision of the people is not that certain, if it's almost a 50-50, it is very easy to rig that election. Because in as much as there are agents across the country to look up and ensure that the correct records from the constituency polling stations end up at the National Tallying Center, it is still a challenge because the numbers are not that very big. So it only takes a little bit of changes in areas where the agents are compromised to rig that election. But if it is a decision that is almost unanimous, that the country has decided that based on the manifesto that the current government is providing and what they gave before, and that it doesn't look to them as though they have delivered in what they promised, and so they want change, then it is clear, and from the agents, it becomes very difficult to alter a few records and rig that election for a win. So that is what Kenyans should focus on. should have one voice as we go to the 2027 election. Let us decide if we think that the scorecard of President Ruto is not enough to re-elect him for the second term, then it is high time we spoke it in one voice. Because without that, then it is almost obvious that Ruto will re-elect himself by rigging election.